Welcome back to Askewed Reviews. And as I'm doing throughout the month of October, I have a theme called Spooky Season Suggestions. And this is where I'm doing reviews for all of the horror movie requests that I've gotten throughout the year that I just haven't gotten to yet. The film for today was actually requested by two viewers, and it is for the 1986 film Dolls. Here is your trivia question for today. What book does Judy read to try to put herself to sleep? The answer will be at the end of this episode. In the film Dolls, we meet a family driving through the rural part of England. We have the father, David, the stepmother, Rosemary, and the daughter, Judy, who unfortunately is not treated very well by the two adults in the car. Now, at one point, a bad storm begins to start, and unfortunately, the car breaks down. So the family discovers a nearby home that they break into to try and get out of the storm. We soon discover that living within this home are an elderly couple named Gabriel and Hillary. And once this couple realizes that the family is not a bunch of burglars trying to break in, they offer to let them stay the night in their home. We also discover that Gabriel was a doll maker and has them littered throughout his home. He's even nice enough to give one called Punch to Judy so that she can have one of her own. Right about this time, two rude hitchhikers named Isabel and Enid, along with a good Samaritan named Ralph, end up busting in out of the storm. And as Gabriel and Hilary seem to be good Samaritans themselves, they allow for everyone to stay the night and keep out of the weather. So, with the terrible storm keeping everyone inside and hundreds of dolls being littered throughout the home, will everyone actually make it till morning? This movie was directed by Stuart Gordon, and what's interesting is Gordon was actually afraid of dolls in real life. Around the same time that Gordon was filming Dolls, he was also shooting From Beyond, where a lot of the same sets were used, but From Beyond would come out 1 year later. Carrie Lorraine plays the character of Judy, and she actually beat out over 100 other young girls for the role. Now, what's interesting is she retired from acting after this film and became a criminal defense lawyer. She also only had one other film role previous to this, which was in Poltergeist 2 The Other Side, which came out in the same year. She was one of Kane's followers. Lorraine, by the way, was really only frightened of one thing throughout the filming, and that was the monster version of her teddy bear, which, when you see it, you can definitely understand. But apparently, some of the crew members used to growl around her just to freak her out. Stephen Lee plays the character of Ralph, and he was highly encouraged to improvise during all of his scenes. There was one scene, by the way, where Ralph bumps his head into a lamp. It had to be redone 10 or 12 times, as Stuart Gordon couldn't stop laughing. Ian Patrick Williams plays David, and apparently he and Hilary Mason became very close friends during filming, and he stayed good friends with her up until her passing. When David is changing into a punch doll, they actually used inflatable prosthetics so that way they could make it puff out as it was almost growing on him. The character of Rosemary is played by Carolyn Purdy Gordon, who is actually Stuart Gordon, the director's wife. She was also able to do two more things throughout filming. Number one, when some of the dolls are whispering, she got to add her voice into that. And then after Isabel's death scene, actress Bunty Bailey was able to leave the set. They only realized afterwards that they wanted to make that scene up in the attic, so the doll face version of Isabel was actually Carolyn. Now, also, when speaking about Bunty Bailey, you may not recognize her from too many other films, but you probably at least recognize her from a music video, as she's the girl from Take On Me by the Ahas. The looks for both Enid and Isabel were specifically inspired by Madonna. Hilary Mason plays Hilary, and was specifically chosen for the character due to her performance in the film Don't Look Now from 1973. Guy Rolfe plays the character of Gabriel, and he hated dyeing his hair white, especially because when it first happened, it turned yellow. Now, he was specifically chosen due to his performance in the 1961 film Mr. Sardonicus. The dolls themselves were a combination of puppets, marionettes, stop motion animation, and animatronics. In the lore of the movie, there were technically three types of dolls: ones that were controlled by witchcraft, like Punch and the toy soldiers, ones that were immoral humans transformed into dolls, and ones that are inhabited by fairies. The whispering sounds of the dolls, by the way, were not only done by Carolyn Purdy Gordon, but also by Stuart Gordon's friends and family, including his children. Out of curiosity, did you get the reference of why it's amusing that Judy gets a punch doll? If you weren't aware, there is a very famous pair of puppets known as Punch and Judy. Even though the movie takes place in England, it was entirely filmed in Italy. There was at one point talks of a sequel with Stuart Gordon coming back to direct. The concept was that Judy and Ralph make it back to Boston, and Ralph does in fact marry Judy's mother. Then one day, Judy receives a box that contains dolls that resemble Gabriel and Hilary. The body count for this film is four, as you have Enid, Isabel, Rosemary, and David. However, technically, the body count might actually be zero, as all four of them are in fact turned into dolls. And it's not exactly clarified as to whether or not that means that they're dead. So when it comes to the film Dolls, I actually really do enjoy this one. It's absolutely an 80s classic in my opinion. I really do like the story and the characters. I wouldn't say it's got the best plot, but it is still fun to watch. So I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. And if you liked this film, other movies I recommend checking out are Puppet Master, Demonic Toys, Blood Dolls, and Child's Play. And now it's time to answer the trivia question from the beginning of this episode. What book does Judy read to try to put herself to sleep? So the book she is reading to herself and Punch is a copy of Hansel and Gretel. In fact, it was actually the copy that belonged to director Stuart Gordon's own children. To this day, they still own it. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Askewed Reviews, and if there's a movie you'd like to see get a review, just mention it in the comments.